games, 15 on this one. So every team in Major League Baseball will be in action today, bar any sort of weird weather that we're not foreseeing right now. But I'm Chris Spags, joined as always on Tuesdays by my good pal, the baseball savant, Jake Pari. How are you doing, Jake?
Doing well, ready to talk some baseball. It was nice having the night off last night, but these huge slates, I feel like I don't overthink it. So I'm excited. I've been watching the shows all day, and I feel like I'm ready to take it down. How have you done over the weekend and last night? Did you play it all?
I actually ended up taking last night off because I just was like, it was such a weird slate timing and I wanted to do other stuff and I didn't want to be around for it. But I was happy to see that the NOLA play went south. I mean, that was one I think a lot of our shows, we talked about at least the risk of it. I was very anti-NOLA. So, I mean, I know for myself, that was one where I was really happy to see him go wrong. But yeah, those 3-game slates, not as fun, a lot less angles to exploit there. And you really got to take a hard stance and hope it works out. And I think that one was one that worked out, but a lot of others out there, I don't know, maybe not as great.
Yeah, I was on NOLA, but I ended up doing well with like one of my couple Padres stacks that I had. So I was overweight on NOLA, but ended up lucking out a little bit. So sometimes that happens with 150. It's always nice when that happens. But I feel like I'm gonna nail something tonight instead of just get lucky.
Yeah, you are. You are going to nail something tonight and get lucky, Jake. And you know how the people out there can get lucky tonight? Besides downloading, I guess, Tinder or Hinge or whatever dating app of choice, you can use the promo code LiveBeforeLock on Awesemo.com. It's part of our new Awesemo Plus membership. It's a completely different thing than before, but better because now we have ownership projections, rankings, the top stacks tool, the lineup builder, and it's all plus for you. So use that promo code LiveBeforeLock to get half off the first month or week, I think, of any package. I think ours does that too. We don't say the weak part that often for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Check out the new plans, or not, I guess the new plan. But yeah, all the same stuff. Ownership projections, the top stack tool that we talk about all the time. So yeah, just a little bit of a makeover. It sounds like so. Good stuff.
And you've got the lineup page up right now, which again is one which you should go check out. Even if you're not an Awesemo Plus member right now, even if you're a free person, you can go to mlb.lineups.awesemo.com. If you want to keep your eyes peeled on when lineups come through, our page there is updated by the second pretty much now. And it's as good as any you'll find out there. So you just want to keep track of when players are coming in out of lineups, as well as the Vegas totals, the weather, all that stuff. Wait, there's weather on there? Yeah, I think weather's on there. Yeah, so all the stuff that you need to know, the chance of postponement, that's all on there now. So go check it out, mlb.lineups.awesemo.com. All right, Jake, let's talk about the pitchers here. It is a day where we have 3 pitchers who kind of stand a tier above everybody else. So maybe 4 if we want to lump Blake Snell in, but ownership-wise, it's a 3-man grouping. We have up top Steven Strasburg. Let's talk on him first. 3.2 implied run total going against him, which I think is still the lowest on today's slate. No, actually, never mind. Syndergaard's come beneath him. But Strasburg, to me, I think is the guy we should hit on first because he's the highest priced guy. The strikeout stuff's been great for him on the year. He's going against the White Sox, who also have, not a good amount of strikeouts in their lineup, and some more as well with Ronaldo Lopez coming in here. Going to be batting in a National League park, which is something he hasn't done a lot, but hasn't shown a lot of success in the one at bat I have for him versus righties. But it's a nice spot here, Jake, for Strasburg. What are you doing with him?
Yeah, I mean, I'm coming in underweight on him, which I didn't expect to do. I thought I was going to be able to get some better lineups playing him. And by underweight, I mean like 5% below what his projected ownership is right now. So it's not like I'm taking a massive stand on a top pitcher tonight. I rarely do. It's usually with the lower price guys. But yeah, great strikeout matchup against the White Sox. He's a 2-run favorite, minus 241. Just a 3.3 implied total against him. I don't know what more you could ask for as far as raw points here. So he grades out well in basically every projection system. If you can get to him and you get to some of these mid-tier, low-tier stacks that you like, by all means, go for it with Strasburg.
Yeah, I think you get like enough stacks in there that work with him, and I think he's worth paying the price for. I mean, we'll talk about some of the other guys as well, and I think there are a couple guys who you can justify paying a premium for today. But Strasburg's been really good. I think the thing that really reflected him on me this morning when I was looking at his numbers, he's just given up less production overall. He's not giving up home runs. I think there's been I want to say urban legend, but the meme about him where it's above 80 degrees, they talk about in the deeper dive, just don't play Strasburg. He's not good in the heat. I think he's shown, I mean, maybe it'll all turn around now that the weather's heating up across the country, but strikeout stuff's been there, 11.2 Ks per 9, missing bats well at 14.6% swing strike rate, also limiting damage at 2.2% home run rate and under actually a 0.99 whip, so just under 1 there as well. Hits per 9 also down to 6.6, so a lot of positive signs for Strasburg. He's also pitching deep into games. I think if you're going to pay up for the guy, paying up for a guy who's going deep into games, has good strikeout upside, and has also been limiting damage. And Strasburg's been doing all the stuff. And of course, it being MLB DFS, watch that White Sox stack do well.
Yeah, I'm not going that far. I don't even really want to say any White Sox bats that I would want to play. I don't even know. Like, sometimes I get to Moncada against these studs, but yeah, I didn't even get to him. So I don't think I'm going to get to many White Sox, but I guess you guys will see if that changes by the time I start my final crunch here for DraftKings.
Yeah, I think if you're the type who'd be wearing a tinfoil hat or hiding in a bunker somewhere because you're worried about every pitcher blowing up, and honestly, I don't blame you at this point, given the amount of aces and seemingly sure bet pitchers we've had have down days. I think you can justify Moncada, Abreu, Anderson, Jimenez, that kind of grouping I think would work. Jimenez in particular, very cheap at $3,000 on DraftKings, despite packing a good amount of power. But yeah, I didn't get there with a hedge stack or a leverage stack, rather. I think there were other spots to leverage against today, and Strasburg wasn't one I got to, so that is what it is. I'm Team Strasburg for the most part. Let's move on here because we got 15 games. We're going to jump around as we always do here on Live Before Lock. So hit that like button as well, and we'll move as we can to the most important items of the slate. The number 2 guy, ownership-wise, or I guess actually the number 1 owned guy, depending upon the site, is going to be Noah Syndergaard, and he's priced a little bit more affordably. Also has a comparably good matchup. Also, his Vegas total has come down where it's underneath Strasburg now. Syndergaard's in a nice spot here, and I think projection-wise, he comes up a lot with our projections at Osmo.com. What are you doing with Syndergaard today in a pretty good spot here versus San Francisco?
Yeah, of course, using the projections on the site, I did see the same thing that you did as far as him coming up in a lot of lineups. And even when I filter down to my 150 out of 500 or 600, whatever I get to tonight, I'm still getting to a lot of Syndergaard on FanDuel specifically, and then Yahoo as well, $45. Over there on FanDuel, he is $9K, so just a really, really good price if you're trying to fit in an extra bat or two compared to like Syndergaard or Snell or one of those top tier pitchers. So Syndergaard's kind of like my upper mid tier guy on FanDuel that I'm getting a lot of. So I'm over whatever he's at right now, 20-ish%. I'm a good amount over that, and I expect that to hold true by the time we get to lock. Yeah, I think that's, I mean, as far as the matchup, I don't know that there's a ton to say. Like, he's a home favorite in a good pitcher's park against a bad team with some strikeouts for sure. Similar to Strasburg, but obviously not as talented or as, maybe as talented, but not as consistent of a pitcher as Strasburg is.
Yeah, on paper, to me, I'm much more comfortable going with Strasburg. I just think he's missing bats at a better rate, and I think we've seen more in terms of limiting, like I mentioned, limiting damage. It's kind of the other way going with Syndergaard, where he's given up 9.4 hits per 9. His strikeout numbers are pretty much in line with where they were going back to last year at a 9.2 K per 9 rate. And he's limiting hard contact well enough, but he's not missing bats the same rate, just an 11.7% swinging strike rate. And these are the kind of things for me when it's splitting hairs. Like, I'll take enough Syndergaard, and I'm with you too. Basically with the field, though, on Syndergaard, because he just projects well, and I trust our projections, and I think that's sort of the basis for it. And obviously Vegas does trust it as well. But if I were going to go against the guy, I think I'd be more inclined to go against Syndergaard, just because I think he just gives up more production in general.
Yeah, I think, like, in terms of just overall stacking against Syndergaard or a guy like Strasburg, I'm more inclined to stack against Syndergaard, but I don't think I need to do that here. Like, against either of these guys, just super minuscule totals. Like, even if they do well and Strasburg does poorly or Syndergaard does poorly, that doesn't really mean that the Giants or the White Sox are putting up 7 or 8 runs, which you're probably going to need from your stacks, at least your main stacks, to compete in tournaments tonight.
Yeah, and the other guy on the side of the, I guess the other side of the equation in this game, Madison Bumgarner, his ownership's come down a bit, but he's still going to be decently owned. I think, is he still number 1? He was number 1 on one of the sites today.
He
was number 1 on Yahoo before?
On DraftKings, looking at Yahoo, he is 3rd, but he's right in that top tier. FanDuel, he is 2nd. So, right at the top.
Come down a bit on Yahoo throughout the day, but I think in the beginning of the day he was number 1 on Yahoo. But so he's come down a little bit. I guess people talking themselves out of it with the team total, not the perfect one, 3.9 for the Mets going against Bumgarner. He was a guy I thought about leveraging against, but with the ownership coming down, I didn't quite get there as much, didn't see the need as much. But Bumgarner, you can make a case for him as well. This Mets lineup is going to have some strikeouts in it. Having Syndergaard in there who strikes out 67% of the time is going to help out a bit. But the lineup overall striking out at a 26.2% rate versus left-hand pitching on the year. I don't mind Bumgarner. I think he's kind of interesting as a pivot to Syndergaard at this point, given the ownership being significantly higher for Syndergaard. But I'm not crazy about Bumgarner enough to get him into lineups. What about you, Jake?
Yeah, I'm getting to some Bumgarner really across all sites, but it's just a matchup with the Mets. You've got a couple lefties there at the top. Syndergaard, pitcher spot, lefty. Again, low implied total against him. Good pitcher's park. Same thing as kind of what Syndergaard has going for him. So on DraftKings, I'm not getting to as much Bumgarner and Syndergaard, but I like them quite a bit on FanDuel. Basically, the one pitcher site. I think they make for really nice plays over there.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. Let's move over to the other, I guess, super elite pitcher. I think he's going to close. Well, I guess it depends how much you want to extend this, Jake. But I would say Blake Snell for me closes out my elite pitcher interest on the day, and we could talk about some of the other guys. You have some other decent. I mean, Ryu is being priced like he is an elite pitcher, even though the strikeouts haven't quite been there as much for him. But for me, Blake Snell is the one I'm really the most interested in. I think for me, I wanted to get to Strasburg Snell lineups because I think both those guys have pretty high upside on the slate. And I'm really intrigued by Snell in the spot. I think Detroit's park has given up a little more production, which is not the best situation, but still a situation where I enjoy Snell whenever I can get him at not terrible ownership. He's under 25% projected on DraftKings, missing bats at a high clip, a 19.1% swing strike rate, getting 12 Ks per nine as well. I like Snell a lot as well. And as I mentioned, I have some Snell Strasburg lineups where I had to stretch a little bit to get there, but there are some stacks that can get you to that point. What are you doing with Blake Snell?
I am reaching the field. They're probably going to get over the field on Snell. I mean, he's just a guy that I know the deeper dive guys, Solafi and Alex today, they talked about him struggling to go deep into games compared to some of these other guys. But I think he's got as much or more strikeout upside as anyone in the MLB, basically. 19.1% swinging strike rate for Snell, 35, almost 36% chase rate. He's getting first pitch strikes. He's doing everything that you like to see. So I'll sacrifice that extra third or 2/3 or even inning because he's the type of guy that can get you 7, 8, 9, 10 strikeouts in like 5 or 6 innings. So while you'd like more than 5, I think he does like get to 6 more often in this spot. And based on just his elite strikeout stuff, I have no problems with Snell at all for this price.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think it's just a really nice spot for him. I guess the one argument you can make is that the Tigers on the year versus left-hand pitching look pretty bad. But if you look at the individual player numbers and the projected lineup they have, or the confirmed lineup they have, this team does hit pretty well overall. You got a lot of guys over a 100 WRC plus in that lineup, and Castellanos and Cabrera as well. I mean, Cabrera has no power at all, as they also talked about on the deeper dive before us. But Castellanos has done a really good job versus lefties with a 169 WRC plus and 423 on base percentage, 370 batting average. So he's been making production against lefties at a pretty good clip. So I guess if you want to argue against Snell, I think that's a faint argument, but I agree. The talent's there for Snell. I like going there. Anybody else in the high price range that you're getting at a good amount? If you want to go down to Bieber as well, price range, I think anybody there popping for you, just let us know.
I've got nothing for Bieber, just a matchup against the Twins that I don't want any part of on a big slate like this. And it's not even like you're getting a discount. Like if it was 8,500 here, I would maybe think about it, but almost 10K compared to like Syndergaard and Bumgarner. I know you're getting an ownership discount on Shane Bieber, but like all these guys in this lineup, basically at least 1 through 5, and then you could make a case for a few guys in the bottom half of this Twins lineup have big power. So I don't want any part of $9,800 Shane Bieber. The Twins are striking out under 20% versus righties this season as well. So I just don't see the strikeouts, and I see a lot of ways this could go really poorly for Bieber. So I'm actually more interested in Twins bats than Bieber here.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you too. I think you could have made a case to me for Luis Castillo just because nobody's on him, and I think he does have, I would say, comparable stuff to the other guys. We've certainly seen some downsides. We've been playing, I think, an early slate within the last week. You may have had a traumatic Luis Castillo experience, but I think the spot here is a pretty good one. I mean, I guess it's a little bit warmer in St. Louis, which is not a great thing, but overall the park factor should benefit him, at least on paper. So I don't mind the spot for Castillo, and I think he has similar upside, but I didn't get there. I just think he is a guy who did jump out to me as maybe being worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean, he's another one that's super talented, but he's just kind of a victim of the slate. Like, the Cardinals are another tough matchup. They don't strike out that much versus righties for being a righty-heavy team, and they actually do have some lefties in the lineup now that I'm looking at it a little bit closer. So, it's not a terrible total against Castillo either, but 80 degrees, a little bit of wind blowing out in St. Louis, humid. I think I can just find what I think are safer options for pitcher, which I'm fine doing. Like, I don't really care about playing pitcher chalk all that much in general, especially on a 15-game slate.
I would agree. We'll talk about cheaper pitchers in a second. But before we do that, right now, go head over to our @Osmo_com Twitter. We're doing an NBA Finals giveaway for Game 3. The giveaway, you can win 3 free months of Osmo Plus if you guess the closest number of total points the Warriors score in Game 3. So the Warriors, a lot of questions right now. We got a questionable Klay Thompson who thinks he's going to play. We also have Kevin Durant's been confirmed out now. Kevon Looney also out. DeMarcus Cousins, who knows how that leg's going to hold up. So there are some legitimate questions to ask for that game. And you can also check my article out on Osmo.com if you want some more details on that. Did a full primer for Game 3, a lot of details in there, which hopefully will help you guys make lineups. But go to that Osmo_com Twitter right now. Guess. If you get that guess right, you can win 3 months free of Osmo Plus. And the plus is for plus. It's even better than it was before.
Yeah, there you go.
The plus is for more. It's all like an all you can eat of great DFS things. So go check it out. All the directions you need there are on the pin tweet at @Osmo_com. So go support the handle. Go support our social media teams with busting their butts trying to get people some free things. So, Jake, how you thinking that game's gonna go?
The NBA game?
Yeah.
Dude, like I said, I'm all in for the finals, basically every season. So I thought it was gonna be kind of boring without LeBron, but I don't know. I think like the Raptors need this game, right? Like they have to win Game 3 with no Klay, no Durant. This is their chance to get back into the series. Basically, if they don't win this, they're gonna finish them out in 5, right?
I mean, so I think Clay's gonna play. I think it's hard to believe he wouldn't, but he's gonna be gimpy for sure. Like you can't come off of a hamstring strain on a pretty fast turnaround. I think it's a risky spot, but yeah, I mean, I think the Raptors, I don't know if it's, there are some people who would argue that both these games are must wins because you want to have that advantage because the Warriors are going to probably be back to full strength by Game 5. So yeah, I think you can make an argument they need to win it. It's a good one. So go check the Osmo_com Twitter handle. The pin tweet will tell you how to win and participate and how to get that 3 months free. All right, Jake, let's go to the cheaper pitchers here. Or I guess anybody who's under that price range that we haven't talked about is popping up for you. Give me the guy who you're getting the most, I guess, in that sub 9K tier.
Yeah, going all the way down to actually like the low tier are the guys I'm getting the most of in like pairs with some of these studs like Strasburg and Snell. Reynaldo Lopez is actually a guy I'm getting to a lot of, and Alex briefly mentioned him on the deeper dive, but he's grading out as a decent value, and he is 5,200 going up against a team with a 24% K rate on their active roster versus righties this season. A very low WRC plus of just 85. I do like me some Reynaldo. I mean, I don't like Reynaldo that much as a pitcher, and you're worried about Soto and Emacs boy Matt Adams. But like a bunch of righties here, and I know like Reynaldo's had good games this season. It's not like he's been bad the whole year. He's had a little bit of a rough stretch, and that's probably putting it lightly. His last couple games, 8 and 5 earned runs allowed, but hoping to capitalize on the recency bias. I'm not super interested in the Nats stack outside. Like I like Soto a ton for 5,500, but as far as the stack, I think that's going a little bit overvalued.
So I agree, and I mean in terms of what I got today, I have a lot of Lopez too, and I think our projections, again, from a value perspective, he is popping up as about a 2x, a little bit over a 2x value guy. So that's going to help him out a bit in that tier when you have a bunch of guys who just kind of stink there. I don't trust it, honestly. Like I'm there with it. I'm owning it, but it feels really dicey with this Washington team total. I think has gone up a little bit throughout the course of the day. 5.4 implied runs in their favor. Washington's park has been pretty good for everything besides triples on the year. So I think there's really nothing that scares me off about Washington here, but I didn't get there. I didn't hedge with Washington at all. And I am heavy on Lopez too. And it's my heavy pick on the day. I think actually I'm not at 50% with him, but I think I'm at like 30% Lopez. So that'd be about 3 times the field. It's not a great feeling, Jake, but he does work from a projection standpoint. It feels kind of flimsy and scary to have 3 times the field of Reynaldo Lopez.
No, for sure. I mean, it's not a comfortable option by any means, but like, where else are you going down here? Like Clayton Richard against the Yankees? I don't know about that. Smeltzer's not even cheap. Pablo Lopez, I think there's a decent case to be made for him. But, like, I want no part of Sparkman. Bundy pitching in Texas in the hot weather in a great hitter's park. That doesn't
He's not cheap enough, though, to qualify either.
That too. And then, like, I don't know how to pronounce his first name. It looks like Genesis, but...
Hennessy
Cabrera. 6,700. He's another guy that I got a few shares of. I think I got around 10% of him. And that kind of sums it up for that low... I guess Eichhoff, if you consider him. I like Eichhoff a little bit at 7,100 in... it's not called Petco anymore, I don't think. But anyways...
I think it is.
Is it?
Isn't it?
I'm thinking of AT&T. Whatever.
Yeah.
In San Diego. Eichhoff is in San Diego, so I like the spot for him there. So those are kind of the cheap guys I'm getting to. I don't think I'm forgetting anyone. Like, no $9,500 Hendricks. Mentioned Bieber. My thoughts on him. Max Fried. Do you have a strong take on him?
So I would actually be more inclined to go to Pittsburgh than Fried, I think, at this point. I mean, especially because I think he's going to be owned a decent amount. His ownership is only at 5%, at least in the most recent update that I have. I might have taken an update recently. Let me just double check. 6 minutes ago. So, okay, maybe the numbers have changed. Just double check that I'm not totally off base then. No, he's still at 5% in the ownership. So, yeah, I kind of thought he was going to rise a little bit. And we saw some people in our premium Slack today, which you get as part of the membership, the Osmo Plus membership at osmo.com. But I thought his ownership would go up a little bit more. So I would be intrigued by Pittsburgh, honestly. Like, I think they grade out well for me on paper in terms of their potential going against the lefty. Like, the lineup itself has been bad versus lefties. Like, actually the team itself has been bad versus lefties, but the lineup is actually pretty good. Getting on base at a 336 clip, a 112 WRC plus for the guys who were actually in the lineup today. And that's padded a little bit by Brian Reynolds, who's been really good in about a 40 at bat sample size. But, I could see going against Fried. Like I've talked about in the content I do, the Four Corners video I do every day, the short form video. Pittsburgh's park has given up a lot of production in every category. And we liked the Brewers last week, and there was one day where they went off. And I think that's in part aided by that park. So, I think Fried, people are going to be on him at a decent amount, or I think it's going to be a little bit higher than we have it. And I would rather go to Pittsburgh.
I think I'm more on Fried there. I don't know that I got too many Pittsburgh bats. I would be surprised. They're nowhere really near the top for me. But yeah, I mean, if he's gonna have ownership, where was he at on the last update? Did you say?
So still at 5%. I think that's gonna be closer to 10 because you have Chase Anderson at 10 or so, and I think even where's Bundy at? Bundy is.
Bundy's at 2.
Oh yeah, okay. Yes, I don't know if Anderson. I just feel like if Anderson's going to be like 10ish, then why wouldn't I would think Fried is going to get up to 10ish. Oh, Anderson's up to 17 in our ownership. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
That's. I mean, he's one of those guys for me that's like, I don't have a problem with him really ever, but if he's going to be chalky, like if he's around the 7K, 6,500 to 8K somewhere in there. So I usually will get more of him than most people, but if people are just playing $7,200 Chase Anderson because he's against the Marlins, I don't know that that's the play either. So from an ownership perspective, I'd rather just spread out my exposure and go underweight on a guy like Chase Anderson and just take some shares of Cabrera and Reynaldo Lopez and probably not Carpenter, but like just some of these other guys in that range. If there's ever a chalk emerging for a guy that I don't really believe in, I usually just spread it out and go underweight on that guy.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I think the argument for Cabrera, I guess to go back to that real fast, he was really good in his, again, the most limited sample size. He's only faced 18 batters in the majors so far, but his splits lefty-righty were pretty appreciable. He only faced 2 lefties, but the righty splits were actually pretty good. 12 Ks per 9 versus the 16 batters he faced. A 2.06 xFIP, also didn't give up any home runs. I mean, again, very small sample size, but he showed some upside there. And there's only one lefty in that lineup today for Cincinnati, so I don't mind going to Cabrera. He's kind of owned, I guess, so that kind of ruins it a bit. But Drew Smiley's 12% owned. I think you make an argument to go there. He's getting 9.1 Ks per 9 going against the Baltimore team who does strike out at a 28% clip in their active lineup today. I don't know, like Smiley is not a guy who I would consider good by any stretch, but if the Orioles are going to be decently owned and they strike out, I don't mind going to him in the hopes that maybe he has an okay day and people just don't see it coming.
Yeah, I didn't really get to Smiley much. He's one that I don't really understand. So if he's going to be around 15%, and We just got an ownership update just now, actually, right as we were talking.
They come out so hot off the
know.
presses, Jake. Can't even keep up.
Dodgers lineup. I was just gonna say that's the one I was kind of waiting for in order to crunch. So the Astros 5.4 implied total. Okay, so that lineup's gonna matter. But anyways, about Smiley, like I just don't really believe in this guy all that much. So if he's another one that's gonna get ownership just because he's 6,100, he's got a 5 implied total against him. And I know I just talked about Reynaldo Lopez, but I just think Lopez has more upside than Smiley does in this spot, and probably less downside. Because like I respect some of these Baltimore hitters like Mancini and Nunez, especially versus lefties. So I don't know.
You don't respect Rendon and Soto?
No, I do, of course, but with Soto, I'm of course terrified of. But like Rendon, righty, you can at least deal with that. Same thing with like Trey Turner. But I just feel like people are going to be more on Smiley than they should be. It's just a terrible pitching environment for a guy that has historic home run issues.
Oh, look, I agree. But I think as long as we're farming for the cheap guys today, I think, his ownership, I think I'm actually a little bit under the field with where his ownership is. I have him at 10%. We have him just a hair under 15%. But, I just think it's an interesting spot, like targeting the strikeouts in a situation where, hitting is variable, hitting is very volatile. So maybe they don't get there. Obviously, going into Texas is not the spot you generally would want to do that. But it's possible the bullpen gives up the production. I mean, the Texas bullpen is also pretty bad. And as you mentioned, Baltimore does have a lot of hitters. So, it could just be a situation where Nunez gets those runs at the end of the game and maybe Smiley just kind of gets through and levels out, because the strikeout numbers are there, even though I would say he's not good and he's getting hit very hard. As something the chat mentioned, the 56% hard contact rate on the year, which is, as we would say, not good. Not good.
No, that's not good.
Especially in a hot park that does generally have positive park factors. Not a good spot, but we're trying to be creative here. So I would go Cabrera over Smiley, I think, but I actually do think I might have the same amount of both.
Yeah, give me Cabrera over Smiley.
All right. Anybody else cheap? Oh, I told you before we got on the air, I do have a few Hoffman lineups just because, again, 9 strikeouts per 9 on the year. I'll take a shot if you have. Honestly, if you're getting over 8, I'll give you a shot, I think, sometimes. And depends on the matchup, depends on the slate. But in a spot where the Cubs are highly owned, the wind's blowing out, I have a ton of Cubs exposure, so it's not like I'm just going one way there. But I think you can make a case for a guy like Hoffman just as leverage, because the Cubs are going to be obscenely high owned.
I mean, yeah, you could. I don't know. You could still get. I think the leverage in the Cubs you get is just not playing the Cubs.
Fair. I
don't think Hoffman. Or you just choose a different stack. So that's how I would approach it. I don't know that I would need to get to Hoffman for 6,900. Like, as long as we're doing that, like, why not just play Sparkman for 47 and just save money and hope he gets you 5?
I may have one Sparkman in the mix as well.
Yeah, $4,700 pitcher. Like, you could see him getting 3 strikeouts in 5 innings and allowing 1 run, and it happens all the time in baseball. These terrible pitchers in bad spots get there all the time. So, yeah, that would be a play I think I'd be more likely to play, even though I don't think I'm getting to either of them.
Okay, that's fair. This is like the finger painting portion of the show. It's just like we're making terrible art with our lineups. And some of these pitchers, I think, look, if you want to get weird and get some expensive hitters in there, I think that was the approach I went to. And we've seen it work within the last week, including I think the last time you and I did a show. There were 2 pitchers there who were like sub 7,500K, or 7,500 rather, who I think had 20 plus points. And then that was the move to make. I forget who it was. It was some other really bad pitcher plus Pena was the move that one night. But yeah, it happens enough where I'll take a shot today in a 15-game slate where just to get different. All right, Jake, we're at the halfway point of the show. So that means it's time for the dong picks. And the dong picks are better. You guys hit the like button right now. This is a little bit of a magic trick, we call it, where if you give us the likes, all of a sudden we get stronger. And then Jake's all of a sudden going to Hulk out on the other side of the screen.
Yeah,
Jake.
I don't know. We should probably wait for dong picks, right, until we get a handful of likes. But I suppose we haven't trained them quite enough, so maybe we can implement that in the next coming days, where we don't give dong picks until it's like 75 likes or something like that. Should we do an update quick? Because I honestly don't know where we're at.
Oh, also, wait, real fast before we get into the dong picks. Weather update. Yeah. Any thoughts on weather at all? I haven't seen any games that I'm worried about, but anything at all on your radar?
St. Louis is probably late starting. I haven't seen too much else. As far as weather update for me, it's not looking good out there. So there's no game in Minneapolis tonight. Otherwise, that game would already be canceled. I don't think weather's going to be an issue, and I don't see any postponement risks in our projections right now.
All right, so we are good to go. So hopefully some likes trickled in. Oh, there we go. Like, thank you guys for liking the video. If you dislike the video in that span, you're a real jerk, and I hope whatever pick you use of ours, I hope goes terribly.
That's exactly right. Yep.
All right, but Jake, on the year right now, the correct picks that we have, I have. Actually, that's right, because Josh changed the formatting here, so it's a little bit wonky. So EMAC has the most correct picks on the year. He's got 12. Jake, you have the second most now at 9.
Okay.
I am tied with Josh at 8 correct picks, but Josh has the same amount of total dongs as you. I know this part's probably not relevant. So, Jake, just give me your pick. You are the one in second place, and I like to be a gentleman whenever we do a show, so you can go ahead of me.
Oh, that's very polite of you. I got to take a Red Sox. I guess just give me the best Red Sox hitter, or arguably the best, I guess. Mookie Betts for 5K versus Sparkman.
All right. Actually, I like that pick. I think Betts, I was between, in my last lineup, I was making out a one-off Red Sox, and I was just like, should I go with Betts or Martinez? And they're the same price on DraftKings. I did end up going Betts because I think he just is going to be able to hit a little better overall. But yeah, it's a tough choice between those two.
Oh, for sure. It's not easy.
All right. I'm going to go to the windy Cubs game with the big total, I think, and I'm not going to be here. I guess depends on how heroic you view this pick. Probably not very. Javi Baez, I'll go back to today. I think I played him recently. Maybe not. I think I was considering him, but I don't think I played him. But yeah, I like the spot here. I think he's got the best power out of the main Cubs lineup that we have today. And that's my dude. And he's got dual position eligibility, which doesn't matter for home run picks, but it's a nice plus.
So you just talked up Jeff Hoffman. Now you're taking hitters against him for your dog picks?
Oh,
I guess I just
clear,
talked up Sparkman.
Not a Hoffman tout. That was just hey, let's do some weird stuff with it.
I know. I'm just messing with you.
Yeah,
I just said I would play Sparkman if I had to take a sub 5K pitcher. So.
I think we're closer to a Lopez tout than I was to a Hoffman tout. The other day, though, that was a full Pena tout, where like when I have 50%, I'm like, I don't know how this happened. It's just what it is. I'll take that as a tout.
For sure.
Yeah, no, not 50% Hoffman today. That's a little bit crazy. And
Betts
EMAC going back to Matt Adams, by the way. So he is not buying into the Reynaldo Lopez renaissance.
Mookie Betts is number 45 in Josh's model. My advice to Josh would be get a new model.
A lot of dudes on the slate today, so that's not that bad.
45th for a guy leading off. That's a really good hitter against Glenn Sparkman. His model must know something I don't.
That is probably true. I don't know. Josh's model accounts for a lot of things that are both magical and in their essence, I think. He's not a data guy. He's more of a black magic guy.
He's definitely a data guy. I think he'd be mad if you said he wasn't a data guy.
That straight black magic. Josh is currently stirring a cauldron in front of his computer, and that's how he hopes that his Excel updates with the correct picks.
Yeah, I think that's actually true.
He's also growing a giant beanstalk in his backyard. In the hopes that leads to Josh is a big believer in whimsy. All right, we're on the second half of the show, Jake. Let's talk some stacks. Let's also talk about the Cubs, I guess, up top here because they are the highest team total on the slate. And I guess that is a point of differentiation, perhaps, if you just don't play them as much. Are you going with the chalk or are you playing less Cubs?
I'm playing less Cubs. I'm just going to one other stack near the top in particular that's coming in a little bit under-owned. So, I get the Cubs are a great stack. It's a regular win game. Everyone goes nuts for those. They treat them like Coors games a lot of the time, and even more. They get more chalky than Coors games for whatever reason because people think they're getting a huge discount on hitters, and that's probably true. But that also, Chris, dude, I told you not to give away our secret voodoo formula to getting picks right.
Alex Baker, better known as Osmo, better known as Papa Shango in the old WWF, where he's just running spells on everybody.
But no, I'm just going to a couple other stacks in that range, specifically the Dodgers on FanDuel, and then the Red Sox a ton on DraftKings. So nothing against the Cubs. I just like to not, if I can avoid it, like to not be on the chalkiest team on a 15-game slate. And I'm not only doing that intentionally, but I'm also finding stacks that are comparable that are getting less ownership.
Yeah, it's tough because you got Schwarber at that price up top where he has the power. He's hitting leadoff, and he's going to be super chalky. 31% ownership on DK. He's going to be comparably owned everywhere. There's a lot going for him in terms of ownership.
For sure.
But it's just a nice spot for a guy of that price, and I get there. But I think to me, I'm with you on it overall. Like that's why I kind of like Baez out of the grouping. He's a little bit cheaper. He's certainly going to be a little bit higher owned than both Bryant and Rizzo, but I'm willing to go there because he's cheaper, and then maybe, I don't know, the Carlos Gonzalez part being close to chalky isn't my favorite part of that stack, but maybe you can differentiate by leaving out some of these guys. If you want to leave out Schwarber, you're paying a steeper price, but maybe you can get there. There are some ways to dice it up maybe to not be as chalky, but
Sure.
some exposure I think seems like a move worth having.
Yeah, I think this is where you put on your Osmo hat and you just say, okay, well, if I'm stacking the Dodgers, or I'm sorry, if I'm stacking the Cubs, maybe you do a few without Schwarber in them. But he, or I don't even know who's the other chalky guy. It's going to Baez, I'm sure, at 4,600. It's just a thing that you can't, like, you take the chalkier stack, but you are just differentiating in one spot. That's going to get you a completely different roster than everyone else. So
yeah, like it hurts. It would hurt me to not have Baez in there because he's going to hit 7 home runs today. That's why he's my dong pick. Literally 7. He's gonna fix all the illnesses of every Cubs fan out there with his home runs today.
I meant Cargo, not Schwarber. I mean, because Schwarber's leading off. There's a good chance that if the Cubs do well, that Schwarber's going to do well. But like Cargo hasn't been that great of a hitter for a couple years now. There's a good chance that he's just not a great hitter anymore. And for 3,300, everyone's going to fit him into their stacks. Like he's the chalkiest player, I think, on FanDuel right now.
Yeah, saying any more might be a little generous because that would imply that he was once a great hitter. But yeah, you're right. On the year, 52 WRC plus. Clearly the weak part of the entire order. The only guy with the worst WRC plus in the lineup today is Kyle Hendricks. So, and by like a decent margin, everybody else here is above a 95. And then that's just Schwarber hitting up top, and that's because he just doesn't get on base a lot. They sell Osmo hats. Yes, we do. Go to shop.osmo.com. That is a thing that we have.
Yeah, I need one of those.
Yeah, we all need one, but I think we were changing suppliers or something, so we don't have our merch yet. But one day we'll all be wearing merch on the stream that you'll be inundated with. Give me your top stack on the day, since we talked about the overall top stack based on Vegas total.
Boston is my top stack. You've got a bad pitcher on the mound, you got a bad KC bullpen, and a ton of good hitters on Boston, like their top 5 that are all probably, like in total, they're overpriced. But like I don't have a problem paying $5K for Mookie and JD and $47 for Benintendi. It's the secondary pieces like Devers and Bogarts that are gonna make it tough for people to fit in, and Chavis especially. But like I'm filling that in really nicely with Holt and getting a Jackie Bradley or someone like that to fill out my 5-man Boston stack. So they're my top on the day. That's why I wanted the Mookie Betts homer. They're just going undervalued compared to a team like the Cubs or one of these other teams that are a little bit cheaper but don't have quite the same implied total.
Yeah, we have them as a 10% chance of being the top stack on the day, but only 4.5% ownership projected for them right now on DraftKings, and it's comparable across all the sites. So, I think that is a spot to go to based on the top stacks tool at Osmo.com, which you get as part of your Osmo Plus membership with that promo code Live Before Lock for half off your first month or week. I'm with you on that one. That's one I didn't get to as much as a full stack, but I tried to get some one-offs in there, tried to get there. The one thing, too, which I think makes it kind of appealing as a full stack, and give me your thoughts on this. So the KC Park overall, more runs, more hits, more doubles, more triples, but less home runs. I would think that would benefit a stack more because rather than one-offs, because you're getting these guys theoretically batting around more, having to drive the runs in, instead of just getting the one guy who gets a grand slam or, whatever, a 2-run, 3-run home run. Would that be a factor at all for you when thinking about this stuff?
That's interesting. I mean, I don't know. You just want base runners. Yeah, like you said, you want guys batting around. So it definitely isn't a deterrent that you're not hitting as many home runs in KC. Because when it's weather like this anyways, like the ball's going to carry. It's humid. It's pretty hot. in Kansas City, and the ball is carrying out to left, it looks like. So, yeah, I mean, those like home runs are great, but like Alex said on the deeper dive, it's hard to worry about them because they happen so infrequently. So, yeah. No issue.
Yeah, so I think that could make it more interesting as a stack if we're going to go with that logic. I guess we'll see how this does tonight, because I think this is kind of an ideal test case scenario going against the guy who gives up a lot of hits, doesn't limit contact in any way, and but is in a park where you give up everything besides home runs. So maybe I don't know. Maybe this will be a good test case. We'll cite in future studies. I'll give you, so rather than I guess a high total stack, and I do have a couple I want to talk about there. I'm going to give you one weird one, which for me jumps out because of the home run rate allowed on the opposite side, and also the park factors as well here in Toronto. I guess I spoiled it. It's Toronto, Jake. It's Toronto going against Tanaka here. You have a lot of guys here with a lot of power in Rogers Center, which has been the top home run park on the year. And Tanaka, if there's one thing he struggled with, he gets strikeouts. He does get guys to miss bats. An okay clip still. Even going back to last year a little better, but he's getting older. Maybe losing a little bit on his pitches. But Toronto has a lot of power here, and I think it's an interesting team to go to as that value team if you're trying to load up on pitching, let's say, or pitching plus one high price stack. I think Toronto might be an interesting one to go to. Any Toronto at all for you?
I didn't get to much Toronto. Tanaka's just a guy I really respect, so I'm glad I didn't. Tanaka doesn't grade out great, but neither do the Blue Jays bats. And yeah, they're cheap, so maybe you get to Vlad Guerrero as a one-off at 3,500, or maybe even Smoke or Tellez at 3,300 and 3,400. But as far as the full stack, I don't know that I want to target Tanaka. It's just a 3.8 implied total. And did you say this was a good park for hitting?
So it's a top home run park on the year so far. 1.54 home runs for every one.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And also 2.2 triples for everyone.
Does that hold weight historically? I don't know.
It's for the year. I don't know. So I've been going just on the year because I feel like there have been a lot of parks which have adjusted some things, and honestly, it was easier for me to just look at the park factors only going back 1 year. So yeah, I mean, it's possible that comes back down again, but they've been around that area for the entire year so far.
Okay.
So I don't know. That's what I'm operating off of.
No, I mean, it's worth noting for sure. Yeah, I don't know. You just see Tanaka giving up bombs here, or are you hunting solo home runs? Like, I don't mind them as a two-man, like I said, but and even Grichuk,
I think it's more hunting like three-man kind of home run situations, I think is what I was hoping for. But I think that's just sort of, it's a spot which jumped out to me as maybe being interesting. And I've been trying, Josh mentioned I'm sure it's not one he would advocate for, so please don't put my words in Josh's mouth. But just trying to target the home run matchups more, because that's generally, I think he had found that there was some production correlation between that. And that's one where it just kind of jumped out to me that they already have a decent rate. It gets better going against Tanaka. And then obviously being in the positive park as well on the year will make that also jump up a bit.
Yeah, I mean, if you like it, they're going to be relatively unowned. So, yeah. I mean,
and when they get crushed today, we'll know it didn't work. So then we go back to the drawing board.
No, it's baseball. You got to have big samples. So just because it doesn't work today doesn't mean it doesn't work in the long term.
Good point. Give me one more higher total team stack, not a weird one. Actually, no, give me a weird one, because I gave you one weird one, so now I'm vulnerable.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say the Dodgers. They are going under-owned across the board.
That's not a weird one, but sure. The Dodgers are a good one.
No, before you said weird one. Let's see here. Who are some guys I'm getting to? A lot of Red Sox at the top. I'm getting to, let me see, am I getting to this team? I'm getting to a lot of like Puig, but
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm playing a lot of Cabrera. If he had more ownership, that would probably come up a little bit more for me, but like Puig, Suarez, I don't even mind Iglesias for 3,500 on DraftKings. And then Casali's a guy who I'll play against lefties as well. Votto at 3,700, so that's kind of one of my weird ones. I'm not using them a ton as a main stack, but as secondary pieces, 2-3 mans, I really do like some of these Reds.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's one I've seen people talk about a little bit today. I also, actually, a couple people in the Four Corners thing were giving away, I guess, 1 month free now for the double dong picks in that video. And a couple people had Eugenio Suarez, which made me feel good for your boy. He is a historical Jake favorite.
He is my favorite. That guy has made me a good amount of money over these last few years, so special place in my heart.
Our boy Andrew Mock in the YouTube chat bringing up Seattle stack is weird. I guess that one would qualify as weird. Miley does limit production pretty well, and also does limit home runs pretty well, and the Houston bullpen's pretty solid across the board. So, yeah, I would say that's a weird one. I didn't get there.
Versus Miley? Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that would qualify as a weird one. Only 4.2 implied total.
Yeah. Not one I got to, but I definitely qualifies as a weird one. Yes.
I can see that though. Like, you're gonna have at least one weird piece of it, because even if you stack the top four, like a lot of people won't have Narvaez, a lot of people won't have Seager lefty. So yeah, I mean, $2,300 hitter leading off outfielder versus like with the platoon split is always valuable. And then I love Haniger versus lefties. I like Santana versus lefties. So yeah, I could see that actually.
Here's one that is weird in terms of Vegas total, but not weird in terms of ownership. 4.1 implied run total for Oakland, but they're getting a decent bit of ownership because they're priced really well, especially Chris Davis, who's rounding, I guess, hopefully rounding back into health, but is going to be very cheap today at 3,600 on DraftKings. Actually, the top five, except for Matt Chapman, are all under 4K. And then actually, you know what? The entire lineup besides Matt Chapman is all under 4K. So a lot of ways you can stack them up here. Going against Griffin Canning, a guy who's had pretty good strikeout stuff. 15.1% swing strike rate so far this year, or I guess his entire career, which is this year. And also limiting hits and walks pretty well, but still giving up a good amount of home runs. Would you have any Oakland today?
I don't really have Oakland today. I would like to get to some Chris Davis. Is this lineup out, by the way? Yeah, okay, it's out now.
I think it just came
I would
out,
like
yeah.
to get some Chris Davis and like Olsen on DraftKings, especially. Just two guys that stick out to me as pretty underpriced, but they're going to stick out to everyone like that. So I don't think I'm getting weird and like main stacking Oakland all that much. Canning's a guy that I respect. Like you mentioned, a guy that can miss a lot of bats at times, and in general on a 15-game slate, that's not really someone I love targeting against for a full
Yeah, I think so. Again, another decent hitting park as well, which has, I think, gone a little bit under the radar, that the Angels Park has been, I mean, that's one that's actually been changed, and they tweaked some of the walls and stuff, and then there's been more production across the board there for everything besides triples. So I like that spot here. I think it's an interesting one. I mean, it's not as chalky, I think, as we might have had in our last ownership projections, but it's still pretty decently owned. I think overall they're at a 7.6% ownership for the entire team. I don't mind it. I honestly don't mind it if you're trying to afford some of these other bats out there. I think Oakland and Toronto are the two cheaper stacks that I got to, just because they jumped out as maybe having enough power to be useful on a slate like this. Give me one more of your top stacks, and then we can keep going from there.
All right, let's see here.
No weirdness needed, Jake.
No weirdness?
No.
All right.
Keep it as straight as possible.
As straight as possible. I'm getting to some Atlanta. Is that weird?
Ooh, okay. That's my favorite.
That's not. I guess that's not weird. 5.7 implied. We haven't really talked about them. I didn't realize how high their total was. Like, I liked them earlier in the day when I was looking at stuff and last night, but 5.7 implied total versus Braults in that park surprises me a little bit. So, and you know, as I look more and more into it, I never have a problem taking Freeman lefty. Swanson is clearly overpriced, but he's a guy that is going to be a really good differentiation point.
He's 5K.
Yeah.
That's so outrageous.
It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous price for him, but that's going to lower his ownership on on a stack that's otherwise very popular. So a guy batting second that like he's been much better this season. There's no doubt about that. Doesn't deserve the 5K price tag, and same thing with Riley. I don't think just yet, especially batting sixth. But it's kind of a weird stack. It's a weird setup. So I don't think a lot of people are going to get to it that much.
Yeah, I think the bottom of the order is pretty intriguing there. You have Albies, who's been pretty good going against lefties. Tyler Flowers, of course, who has kind of noteworthy righty-lefty splits, going against a lefty pitcher as well. And Riley, I'm willing to pay Riley's price because he's just mashed. He's really, really mashed lefties in a 20 at-bat sample. So, you know, that's all kind of meaningless. But he's had a 25% home run rate in a 20 at-bat sample. Going into a positive pitching park, again, one that's pretty good across the board in a variety of ways. And the bottom of the order is cheap, but also talented. I mean, obviously, you'd like to have Acuna in there as well, and that's a price. And as you mentioned, Swanson, I think I could skip Swanson maybe. But Freeman as well is going to be pretty highly priced. Donaldson, though, is cheap. I mean, I think there's a lot of ways you can stack him up, which would be interesting here. And Brault's a guy who doesn't miss bats terribly well. And I don't know. I think it's a nice spot to go to Atlanta here, and the ownership isn't quite there across the board.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that at all.
All right, you want to go back to the Dodgers, or do you have another one that speaks to your soul? How about Texas? We didn't talk about that side of the equation.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about Texas. I'm not getting to as much as the field on guys like Odor. and like the chalkier guys in that stack. But I love the idea of stacking against Bundy in hot weather in a great park. I'm honestly surprised they only have a 5.4 implied total, so I think that's what's keeping me off them a little bit and keeping them not projecting as like the top stack on the night. But yeah, I guess like maybe it's just the Shields batting up there at 3,800. I guess it's a fine value play. I don't think the Shields is any good, but whatever. He's 3,800.
His dad was good though, so that gives him a little bit of a boost.
Yeah, his dad was good. Yeah, I don't know. They're just someone I didn't end up on. You got to draw the line somewhere, I suppose.
Yeah, I got a little bit of Texas, but I agree. It didn't occur naturally for me. I think the projections maybe keep it down because these guys are pretty well priced because they are back in Texas. And, I think the thing too is Bundy to me is just good enough. He's got up to a 13.3% swing strike rate on the year. He's also limited hard contact well. On the year, he's down to 26%. Going back to last year, 33%. So he's shown some improvements there. Also striking guys out 9.2 Ks per nine, which actually may be due for some positive regression. Going back to last year, he was up to 9.5. I think Bundy's shown some improvements here, and I think that's why I didn't get to him much as a pitcher, but I think he can be okay enough here versus Baltimore where maybe a midi stack might be more appropriate, a 2-man, a 3-man kind of situation. I think the full stack, the bullpen's bad enough where you could still make an argument for a full stack, but I kind of respect Bundy. I think Bundy's grounding into form well enough where I'm not trying to target against him maybe as we would have last year.
Bundy's like the perfect guy for DFS because like he gives up a ton of home runs and he can miss a lot of bats. So he's almost someone that's always going to have ownership on both sides of it, basically no matter what. So he's just always an interesting talking point. Like, can you remember a Bundy slate where he's not either one of the chalk pitchers or the stack is not one of the chalk stacks against him?
There have not been many recently, I would say.
Yeah,
I think he's always
crazy.
a part of the conversation, which is all you can ask for.
Because he's like 6,500, 7K, 7,500, something like that. But then the stack is cheap against him too. And he's just so volatile. Perfect for DFS in a bunch of different ways.
Hold on one sec. How you talked about the A's. I always feel bad when somebody asks a question like after we just talked about them like 5 minutes ago. 5 minutes. I guess I could have just said this out loud in the video, but all right, there we go. What about the Baltimore side of the equation? I think we talked about them a little bit vis-a-vis Drew Smyly, but any Baltimore for you?
I love Mancini. And I like that you're getting some leverage off of a guy like Smyly who's getting ownership. So yeah, I do like Baltimore. Again, not a team that I'm main stacking all that much, but I will get a bunch of the the best pieces of it, like Mancini and Nunez, Alberto leading off as well. What about you?
I didn't get there much because, not that I got to Smyly much either, but I did have enough Smyly where I didn't just feel the need to kind of cram in Baltimore. And I don't know. I didn't feel the need to hedge either because I don't have so much Smyly. So it was kind of in a weird spot there where I wanted to get to other teams more. I have a ton of Atlanta, as we talked about. I have a good amount of all these other teams, a good amount of Cubs, a good amount of Red Sox, also a good amount of Astros. So I guess we should bump to in a second. But yeah, I don't know. I just didn't feel the need to get to Baltimore much because they seem kind of overpriced for parts of these guys. Like Mancini and Nunez, I would like. White Smith Jr., not so much, but especially not at 4,500. Jonathan VR, now that he's bumped down the order at almost 5K, I don't quite see as appealing. So it wasn't a full stack I wanted, and I think I have a couple one-offs, but that's probably about it.
Yeah. Here's a guy that we haven't really talked about. I know we're talking bats right now, but I'm seeing some more Eduardo Rodriguez than I anticipated. He's not really a guy I've looked at all day, but did you get to him at all?
He straggled into a couple lineups where I had some of the higher priced bats because I think he has some upside there. Not a guy I'm dying for. And we talked about Kansas City where, again, it's given up production as a park overall. And Kansas City has been bad versus lefties. So I guess if you want to make that argument, I think you can. But their actual lineup isn't quite so bad overall versus lefties. They are getting on base at a 339 clip, also striking out only 23.3%. So I think people may be targeting the Royals overall as a lefty team, but their actual lineup isn't quite that bad and wasn't one I needed to occur. And our projections didn't really force me there a bunch either. So yeah, not one I have a ton of.
Yeah, I get that. It's not like he's my highest exposed pitcher or anything, but 8K for a guy that with strikeout upside, I know it's not the perfect matchup or anything, but he's a huge favorite on the road, which you don't often see. So I am playing more Erod. He was a guy I kind of brushed over. We didn't really talk about him at all.
All right. Thomas Kane saying, in Jesus' name, will you please talk about the Rockies? That was not a popular request today, but they do have the same wind blowing out, I guess, upside that the Cubs have, and the Cubs have a much higher team total here. The Rockies only getting 4 implied runs for them, even though the Cubs are over 6.5. What are you doing with the Rockies? Any of them for you here, given that they are getting a nice park factor with that wind blowing out?
I didn't really get to mini Rockies at all, but they are hitting in the same environment as the Cubs. So I guess there's a case to be made for them. Hendricks isn't a guy I love stacking against. He's kind of a really frustrating guy, kind of the opposite of Bundy, where he's not a guy that I target against all that often. He's not someone that I play, especially not at 9,500. Is that
yeah
actually his price? Okay. So he's someone I basically never get to, but I like Daniel Murphy at 4,100. Arenado and Story don't have the platoon split. It's not Coors, and they're both 5,300. So they're just a little bit overpriced for me as a whole.
Okay, that's fair. Here we go. Sorry, I missed a couple of the questions on the premium Slack, so we're just going to jump around a bit.
Sure.
Favorite bats of Texas on FanDuel? Which, I guess, of the ones would you feel the most comfortable with if you were to stack in Texas?
Odor, and Mazzara. Those would be, and then Asdrubal Cabrera. So kind of right in the middle of that order.
Yeah, I would pay for Chu, I think, if you could afford him. But yeah, I think those picks are fine enough. But Chu would be a guy I feel like jumps out to me as being somebody I like, but you are paying a premium pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
And I guess here we go. Is the roof confirmed open in Arizona? We have that site. Let's see. Chase Field Roof. No, EMAC gave us that one because that's the one that he said is updated all the time. It is open today, it says.
Someone DM me for that, or DM me asking where I found the roof info. So
if you search Chase Field Roof, it's literally the first result. So that's for future roof-based questions. Go to Chase Field Roof on Google and you'll find it. Cub fan 1216 asking thoughts on the Brewers. I think maybe we breezed past them, but I think they're a bit interesting. Didn't quite get there a ton because I do think Pablo Lopez isn't terrible. But what about you, Jake, and the Brewers who have a 5.3 implied run total?
Let me see where I'm at on the Brewers. Against Lopez, like they're not getting much ownership at all, which is a little bit surprising to me. It's not like it's a bad spot if they can get by Lopez, who is a guy that I have a little bit of respect for. You've got that Miami bullpen. They're another one like the Dodgers, like the Red Sox, that look a little bit overpriced because you've got Moustakas and Yelich at 59 and 5,400, and then even some of their secondary pieces like Grandal and Eric Thames are over 5K. So they look really overpriced, but they do have a decent chance of being the top stack. So that's a team that I would like to target. I'm just getting more exposure to Boston and the Dodgers.
Yeah, and I think the thing to me, too, is that Pablo Lopez does limit the lefty hard contact pretty well, a 31% clip, and it is a park that benefits lefty power in Milwaukee, so I think that was one thing that kind of just pushed me off. But I really never have a problem with playing Milwaukee because they have a ton of power collectively, and there really isn't anybody. I mean, I guess you could say maybe Kane, maybe Arcia, but even then, those guys are still competent enough where I don't really find a day where it's ever bad to stack Milwaukee unless you're going against somebody elite, and even then, that might be the time to stack them the most, so yeah, I never really have a problem with it, just not when I landed on a bunch today.
Yeah, there's just so many teams. There's so many, 5+ totals tonight that it's tough to kind of narrow it down. You can mention like 20 teams that I'd be like, oh, okay, that's, I could see getting to them. But in reality, I'm only getting to like 12 or 13 stacks out of my 150.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. All right, our boy Makad, of course, asking the historical Paul Blackburn Award given to the pitcher who is cheap and bad, but also perhaps can get their way into a winning tournament lineup. Jake, who would fit that criteria for you today?
Reynaldo Lopez is my guy. How about you?
Okay. You want to give the argument for Reynaldo one more time, since we talked about it a little bit earlier?
Just the Nationals are striking out above 24% on the season to righties, 85 WRC plus, their active roster. Like, obviously, there's some really good hitters in that Nationals lineup, specifically Rendon and Soto, who smashes basically everything. But this sets up as a really good matchup for him. He's just 5,300, and I don't think he's as owned as he should be, despite the large total against him. There's no problems with him in terms of being stretched out either. What you like?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think he's the pick, but I'll differentiate because we want to do the same one. Go Drew Smiley. Still not a guy I'm dying for, but a guy I do have 10% of. The field projected to be 15% on DK. I think on SB2 sites he'll have some ownership overall. So it's a spot where Smiley is not a guy who's terribly great, but going against an Orioles team has a 28% aggregate K rate in their lineup. And Smiley does get strikeouts, even though he gives up, in, like as we mentioned earlier in the show, a literal ass load of hard contact. 70.4% versus lefties, 51.7% versus righties. That is bad, but maybe he gets those strikeouts today. 9.1 Ks per 9 on the year, and Baltimore strikes out. So there we go. There's my Paul Blackburn.
Yeah, that is the definition of a Paul Blackburn, I think.
It's true. Paul Blackburn would be proud from his AAA affiliate, wherever he's riding on a bus right now watching this.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Anything else we need to hit on? We're checking for questions. Anything else that pops out to you in your crunches? Do you want to give people your overall percentages so far?
Yeah, I'm just loading up my FanDuel right now. I never do this, so I'm usually done by now. But I know I got to a ton of Boston. Seeing in my FanDuel crunches, I got to a lot of Dodgers as well. Other guys that I'm looking at here. Let's see here. DK. I got to... So Acuna was like the chalk hitter that I'm actually heavier on than I expected to be. I'm below on Schwarber. A little below on Strasburg. Looks like I am just a touch below on Snell as well. But, yeah, I don't know. Nothing's really changed for me from the beginning of the show. Really, really heavy on the Red Sox, it looks like.
You know, it's one that we didn't really hit on, Tampa Bay.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about them at all.
Yeah.
I got to some Willy Adames. I got to Yandy Diaz a little bit, but I'm not super heavy on Tampa either. Did you get there at all?
So, like, I thought I was getting earlier in the day, but I was only getting the cheap guys who really didn't appeal to me that much. So Zunino I ended up getting a little bit of. I also got some of, actually, did I get Heredia? I might have gotten one. I might have actually X'd out the lineup I had with Heredia. But yeah, like I was getting there a little bit earlier in the day, but the guys you really want, I think, are Meadows, who's insanely priced. And also, obviously, El Garcia, who's also insanely priced. Like, it was hard to justify those prices for those guys, even though the spot's pretty good going against Ryan Carpenter.
Yeah, I think that's
fair. Also was a Paul Blackburn candidate, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Not much strikeouts, though.
So looking at it now, like, I'm surprised I didn't get to any Carpenter. Oh, no, that's a lot. No, that's Matt Carpenter. I got to... What, 4% of Ryan Carpenter. So I did get actually to a little bit. But like $5,600 pitcher, I'm almost always going to get a little bit of exposure to on a huge slate like this. But
I also have one Carpenter because that K rate for the Rays versus lefties is pretty bad. 30% on the year. Their particular lineup today, 27% K rate versus left-hand pitching. So maybe this is the day where Ryan Carpenter goes off, and the Rays are going to be decently owned. So maybe that's a spot here. We are locked. So hit that like button on the way out, guys. Use that promo code Live Before Lock to get a new Osmo Plus membership. Our night slate content still as good as ever, despite the new name for our premium memberships, Osmo Plus. Go check it out. All the ownership projections, the rankings, top stacks tool, the lineup builder, the deep dive column every day as well. All that stuff is there for you to make better lineups every single day. Use that promo code Live Before Lock for half off your first month or week. Also, go check out the giveaway we're doing on the @Osmo_com Twitter. Go to the pinned tweet right now. You can see the contest we're doing for Game 3 of the NBA Finals. You get that guess right if you're the only one who gets it right, or the randomizer picks you if you guess it with a bunch of other people. You'll be getting 3 months free of an Osmo Plus membership. That's a premium membership at Osmo.com. So go check out that pinned tweet at Osmo_com. Jake, anything else you want to hit on before we call it quits?
Got all my lineups in, it looks like. So that's step one. Step two now is need some Red Sox stacks to go off, and hopefully my house is still here by the time this storm is over.
Yeah, your house did survive. Jake was under weather concerns in his own home all throughout this show, but he persevered. So let's all applaud Jake's courage in the face of potential electrical outages and whatever else is there.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Thank you guys for watching. Please hit the like button on the way out. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. We got MLB strategy shows going tomorrow. My Four Corners video, the short form video that's sweeping the nation right now. Go check that out. Subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you'll know when all that stuff pops up. We'll be back tomorrow for more content. So enjoy your nights, guys. Good luck.